No.
There's no telling.
The thing is, you were like,
you sound like a candidate for Space Force.
Yeah. Oh, who doesn't want to be in the fucking Space Force?
Did you see their uniforms?
Star Trek series.
Yeah, why do they have camo?
Did you see the Space Force uniforms? The internet went wild because they're camouflage.
Why?
You know what it should be?
It should be orange or something.
It should be black with those little glowy stars like you had on your ceiling as a kid. So you could just.
It should be that black that.
Now I want to be.
Isn't there like a new black now they invented that like literally absorbs like 99% of like
Vanta
all
black.
light?
Vanta black.
Yeah, it should be that.
That or just like Buzz Lightyear prototype.
Sir, I've detached from the ship. I'm floating. You've got to rescue me quickly.
Well, I know Woody's into that.
I see where you went there.
I'm the one in digital camo floating towards the sun. I can't see you. We shouldn't have camouflaged. Yeah.
Look, I don't know why everybody makes fun. Nobody would make fun of the Space Force if anybody but Trump had suggested it. They'd be like, "Yeah,
we would
finally a president."
No, we would. But here's look. I don't like Trump's maybe my least favorite person on the planet. So I don't defend him lightly. All I will say is this: he's such a dope and so bad with secrets. The fact that he's so into Space Force makes me think that he knows something.
Oh, I like where you're headed with that.
He is given away tons and tons of military secrets via Twitter, via Mar-a-Lago, via conversations with Russians where he's like, yeah, we got spies out there. And people are like shut the fuck up. So I think Space Force, he's like, fuck, aliens are real. Space Force.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if that's it? What if they showed Trump the Area 51 ships that Bob Lazar was always talking about?
Yeah.
What if they showed him the body and he was like, all right, well, we've got our own spaceships, right? And they're like, no. Obama didn't want to fund that stuff. Are you fucking kidding?
Exactly.
We need a Space Force.
I'm not.
He's just all night. He's watching reruns of Star Trek, like taking notes. Like, yeah.
And I want big titted bitches in tight clothes on the
We need
you can't pass the pull-up requirement. How big are your tits, sweetheart?
The sweetheart was the best part of that.
That's all you gotta do. Yeah. Now the Space Force has potential to be. It only has the potential to be really cool if we get like phasers, like laser guns. You know, do regular bullets work in space?
Regular bullets don't.
Space Force is about the holodeck. It's all. That's all I want. The holodeck. This is a paradise filled with make-believe horrors. That's what the holodeck is.
We have holodeck already. It's called a 3D printer. We're like not far off.
I've never been blown by a 3D printer.
That's true.
I have. It was incredibly painful.
Technology is just not there for a smooth robot dick.
I promise you, there's 3D printing plans out there.
It's like a million hexagons, just in and out, in and out.
That sounds pretty good.
Like a nail file.
Micro tears in your ass skin.
So they did
printer fleshlight.
They did make a weapon for space. It's called the gyrojet pistol. The pistol has like these little
cartoon.
It looks like something out of a cartoon. The ammunition it's firing these rounds that are powered by little rockets, and I've seen one before. I've seen the ammo for it before as well. And I knew a guy in Vegas who had a big firearm collection, and he had a couple of these things. But yeah, I think that for one reason or another, regular firearms don't work in space.
Yeah,
is it because do they have their own oxygen?
No, well, I don't know exactly.
Can you imagine being so into guns on Earth that you run out and you're like, well, I guess I'll get laser. Man, I'm like, Jesus, how bad is your gun addiction that you're like, all right, well, what would I use to kill an alien?
This 3D printed fleshlight I found is really disappointing.
We should have an answer for that question, though.
It involves a condom in a sock?
Yeah.
Wait.
Well, I hate that.
Modern guns have their own internal oxidizers, chemicals that ignite the gunpowder and fire the bullet in space. Where there's no gravity, your bullet could keep going forever as long as it didn't hit something. So,
wouldn't it blast you the opposite direction? If you're just like floating in space with a pistol, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
And you would float forever in space. I don't know. I just want you guys to think this through before you fire a handgun in space.
I don't think I'll ever have to, jump over that hurdle. My life's not heading in that direction.
Yeah, that's something you don't need to have on your bucket list.
I know the cosmonauts, the Russians, they had this really interesting firearm that could do a couple different things. I think it was a shotgun as well as like a rifle, but it wasn't for space combat. It was because every now and then when they returned, they landed in fucking Siberia and they needed something to fight the wolves and the bears with.
Oh my God.
Oh.
Yeah, that's we had lovely like just the Atlantic over there next to Florida or whatever to land in, to splash down in the warm 80-degree
Actually,
water.
you probably need a gun in Florida as well now.
That's a good point.
There's a couple guys on bath salts.
We're landing in Tallahassee. We got to make sure we're.
Dude, that would fucking suck. Being a Russian, like you're surging back down through the atmosphere, hoping you're not gonna die. And it slams into the tundra, and you're like, "All right, Nikolai, easy part over." And then you fight your way through fucking bears.
That's what happened to
Yetis.
the first manned spacewalk. It was these two cosmonauts. He goes out, and of course, and it's live on Russian television or Soviet television. Everybody's watching. Everybody's fucking, yes, we've won again. And then the guy realizes that because of the pressure differential, his suit has inflated, and he can't get back into the capsule. So they cut the feed. They just cut the fucking feed, and they play like
what feet?
The feed.
The feed.
Oh,
Now please enjoy video of bears playing hockey.
Yeah, they actually played like Mozart's Last Repose or something like that. It's a really sad, like it's like the end of a sad movie music.
So Russian.
Did those guys die?
Well, it's kind of a story. So he's out there floating around, and the other guy's inside, like, and finally he realizes he's got a pressure valve. So he releases the pressure valve, causes extreme pressure sickness though, because he releases a little bit too much pressure, gets himself back in, and they go to close the hatch. And don't think of like a modern spacecraft, which are still we're not a Star Trek level. They're in like a capsule, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a submarine in space.
So there's no like airlock per se. They have to put their suits on, and then they just open a door right next to them, and then one of them can go out. The other one is in zero oxygen as well while he's watching his buddy float around out there. So buddy finally gets in. Close the door, and the door's it won't latch. It's a fucking Russian door.
Oh no.
It goes on for a while. Well, they're slamming the door, and because they're in zero gravity, that's creating force. It's pushing the craft every time he jerks the door and impacts the craft with its own door. They do get the door shut, but then they realize now we're tumbling. So now they're tumbling, and they're like, we got to get back to fucking Earth. So they bring the thing to re-entry. They land like, I'm going to get this wrong, but let's just say 3,000 kilometers from where they're supposed to be in Siberia during bear and wolf mating season. And I don't think they had a firearm. I think this was the incident that caused them to go, we really need the gun for the guys. They're landing up. It's no good. They found him after like 30 hours or something like that. All safe and sound. Soviet heroes. They made it. But like 8 things went wrong that should have
That's a way more interesting story than Apollo 13.
It's pretty close. I don't know. They made it back with like, they really MacGyvered their way back to the planet. You know,
I just want to see a 20-minute scene of them trying to close the door.
Yeah,
you'll never see it. They were playing Mozart. Yeah.
They made
like if they were to redo it and make a movie, he's saying, just 20 minutes of them slamming doors.
Yeah, Apollo 13 was a great movie. Those guys traveled 250,000 miles in a MacGyvered ass, if you could even call it, spacecraft. Yeah, that was. That's
I'm sure it was real hard surviving that soundstage in Burbank.
You're not one of those guys, are you?
No, I'm not. Good.
I think that they definitely faked some things, some of the footage that they put out there. That's kind of a known thing.
How do you go from you're not one of those guys, are you? But seriously, they faked a lot of shit.
Well, they did. Like
did.
It's plain to see.
Like
it's plain to see that they faked some of the footage that they have of a spacewalk in particular. Like it's clearly, obviously fake, and everybody kind of like, yeah, that's reused footage. It's like, well, that's not what you said when you broadcast it. You said this is our astronauts live spacewalking.
Which clip was this? I'm not familiar with this one.
I would have to go down a Wikipedia.
It was the one with George Clooney and Sandra Bullock. Turns out that one was totally fake.
You can see
it looked real.
Stanley Kubrick's belly in the background.
Is that the giant baby from 2001?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
He's just in the background shaking the shit out of Shelley Long. Be afraid. Jack's coming.
the more I think about the space race, I think it might have been what you said this a while back. Like, we totally moved the goalposts on the Soviets. Where like they made it into space with Yuri Gagarin or whatever, then they did the orbit or whatever, and we're like, nah, that was actually never the deal. It was actually the moon.
Right, we just lost
the moon like the whole time.
Yeah, like first they make it to space, then they make it around the entire planet, then they break some sort of speed record, then they go longer duration, then we get to the moon.
First monkey in space,
all
first
those
satellite.
things first, and then we're the first people on the moon, and we're like, ha. That was the race the whole time.
Yeah.
Scoreboard!
And we totally screwed them because they're like, well, but you took all of the Nazi geniuses. If you give us 5 of your 10 Nazi geniuses, then we'll call it fair. No, we're keeping all the Nazi geniuses. And then we're going to slap an American flag on it.
Like, we beat the Nazis too, more than you.
Where should the flagpole have been, right? For victory. Like we also got to Mars first.
I like going around the Earth because I look. I'm outside my depth.
The fact that they quit.
That's the thing.
I think is when we won.
Getting into space. I don't even know. Isn't there like a spectrum on what space even is? Like, there's not a line between space and not space, right? If
Where you going with this, Neil deGrasse Tyson?
I'm saying if you make it like, let's say 50,000 feet in the air, have you made it to space?
No, that's a halo jump.
Right? Where's space exactly? Do you have to get out? Do you have to get to zero gravity?
You're saying there's no exact
right? What if you get to zero gravity, but a few revolutions in, you get pulled back in like space debris, right? Do you have to get to the point where like you would orbit and continuously leave our orbit, right? You just go further and further away, farther and farther away, right? Like, so where exactly is space start?
Oh, I mean, there's a well-defined there's some scientists who do that sort of thing, and they wrote a number down.
I don't think that's true.
So in the U.S., space begins at 80.4 kilometers or 50 miles in the air at 264,000 feet. The general international consensus sets a similar limit for the start of space at 380,000 feet. So
what was the other one?
264,000.
See that? No, thank you. At first I was like, "Fuck, am I wrong?" but then it's like, so between 280 and what'd you say, 304, 340,
264,000 and 380,000 feet, and then all the satellites it says are between 525,000 feet up and 6.5 million feet. So a good bit of space.
Is it's not like in the cartoons where like there's a line between Nevada and California. One side's space, one side's Earth.
I'm pretty sure what you would use as your determining factor is when you're in low Earth orbit, when you stop falling back and you start orbiting, right?
Right, but things that are in orbit could go around 6 times and then get sucked in, right? There's all kinds of space debris out there, for example, that's getting pulled in all the time. This is why they don't have to worry about it. So all I'm saying is, like, I don't know exactly where space is, but maybe you circumnavigate in zero gravity and that's it. I don't know exactly what it is, but
I think that's what Virgin Galactic is talking about doing, right? They're this really high altitude where they're just on the cusp. They're in that little in-between area to zip from one continent to another.
Yeah, but there's no exact art on it. What I'm saying is space fades in. Like the atmosphere.
It absolutely fades in. It's certainly not like going from in the ocean to in the air, right?
Perfect.
There's an obvious line.
There's a very distinct difference. Yeah, whereas
I could see that. Yeah, I get your point somewhat.
You can't just go put one toe in space like you can the ocean.
You can though. There's
no,
I guess not. I'm
just gonna dip my toe in space, guys. I'm not going all the way to space. I'm just gonna hang.
They defined 120,000 feet of like gray area, which was kind of what I was getting at. So yeah, I don't know how to define the space winner exactly, but maybe circumnavigate the globe in 0 degree or 0 altitude gravity. Anyway, we're getting lost in the weeds.
I think the space winner is the country that ended up with Tang. Thank you.
And Velcro.
Do you remember how I'm younger than you guys, but do you remember how excited you got for the Tang commercials when that orangutan was bouncing around up in space?
You love monkeys. No one else got excited by that. This monkey thing with you.
You were the only one on
No, Taylor, none of us were like, Mom, there's a monkey on TV.
Look at him. He's drinking the Tang.
You and monkeys is hilarious.
I remember specifically asking my mom at whatever point in the 90s being like, you got to get Tang. You got to get Tang from the store. And I remember like mixing it up being like, God damn, this is what astronauts drink. And maybe I'm right. It seems like a terrible thing for astronauts because if you're in 0 gravity, having a bunch of orange powder floating around doesn't seem ideal, right?
I think you mix it inside of a squeeze pouch.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, they probably weren't doing it in their mom's kitchen at the age of 7.
You guys know so much about what astronauts do.
Oh, no, that's where you're wrong. I know they drink Tang and do something scary I have no interest in doing. Yeah,
Sam.
I don't even know if I would take a free trip up to space.
What?
I quit. Look,
Taylor,
I quit
what if I
scuba
told
diving.
you that being an astronaut involved working with monkeys?
Well, that's an additional. That's interesting.
All right, Taylor, you and Lieutenant Bimbo here are going to go into low orbit. You're going to go 8 trips around the Earth. And wait, well, I don't even know anything about how to operate this. Don't worry, Bimbo does. You look over at Bimbo and he's just like,
look,
Houston, I fell asleep during the safety onboarding and Bimbo's throwing feces around the cabin.
Taylor, we want you
yeah,
to
that's
know
right.
that
When he
even
throws
though-
the feces, that means that your number 1 O2 booster is low. Okay, you're going to want to adjust that.
Taylor, we want to let you know that if anything goes wrong, Bimbo is absolutely in charge.
Yeah. We're going to ask you to defer to your commanding officer.
That's kind of sad, all those animals we sent up there, because like I'm sure school children back home were like, oh great, they sent a dog up there. I can't wait. Are we gonna get to meet him when he comes back? And they're like, comes back?
Yeah,
What do you mean comes
definitely.
back? He's gonna slowly roast to death on the reentry. That's kind of what happens here. That or
Yeah.
run out of oxygen. That's what happened to all those critters. They either ran out of oxygen or they burn up on reentry.
How many? Well, I guess that's probably not even public info. How many monkeys and animals, like dogs, did we kill up there?
That's absolutely public info. What everything NASA did is transparent. It's
What
the
about all the ones they
cosmonauts.
smushed in the centrifuge on Earth? We didn't hear about those.
Oh,
That's true. Yeah.
The stuff the cosmonauts did is very shady. Like we don't actually know like how many people that they're like, oh yeah, this guy's the first one into space, nailed it on the first try, and it's like, did you though?
Yeah.
Did you though? Maybe he's the 8th guy who tried to get to space, or the 9th guy who tried to get to space. He's at least the 2nd, right? Like they sent up a couple of those fucking dudes and tried it out. I don't think so. Rogan's got that whole bit about how like we're gonna have a bunch of like nerds sitting in a fucking control. The smart people are never the ones they send up first. They're down there sitting there turning their knobs and looking at screens. They got some square-jawed, corn-fed guy from the Midwest they shoot up in the fucking space. He doesn't know what he's doing. He just knows enough to turn the knobs.
He is not crucial to the operation.
They got a bunch of him.
Yeah.
A guy named Buzz was not the smartest guy in the operation. I guarantee fucking you.
I was watching some TV show where a guy was insulting astronauts. We think of astronauts as perhaps the greatest career there is. It's certainly way up there at the top. And he's like, it took them decades to swap you out with monkeys. Like you do nothing up there. You're ballast. I'm like, maybe that's true. Maybe there's something to that.
Somewhere we're getting our asses beat for real
Mm.
are the Soviet space statues. We need cooler statues about astronauts in space.
What is this you just sent here? Oh wow, that's like a giant sword person.
It's a giant Yuri Gagarin.
Yep.
He's got his cool fucking spacesuit rocketing out of the Earth. Why don't we have stuff like that?
Damn. The Soviets have some good statues. They're top of the game there. That motherland thing with the chick and the sword. Like,
Yeah, that's pretty tight.
But that's all they had. We had
North Koreans are on their game too. You ever seen that thing of Kim the grandfather, Kim Il Sung? Yeah, like on the horse and everything. They don't fuck around with that stuff either.
I haven't seen that.
Saying if your country doesn't have movies, you better have good statues to look at.
That's true.
Yeah, that's true.